We'll now move on to hearing the request for ARPA funding, beginning with the rescue squad and the man with the legend, Mr. Jeff Hill.
I'm gonna let the captain here take care of that. If I can get out of the chair.
It goes back to where we had come and reduced our initial request. What we had was still holding on the $350,000 that we reduced down from $985 in the initial to get down. We have some equipment that is in need of replacing vehicles. Being one, looking at our frontline rescue trucks, the newest one we have is still 16-year-old. We're going down to, the oldest one, of course, now is 26-year-old. We do our best to keep them in good shape, and for the most part, they are in good shape. However, most other, there's a mileage cutoff on the level where we can go. We're not there, but the age and keeping in, and it's eventually going to get to the point to where we're spending more maintenance than what we're actually being benefit to do with it. So we have those. The mayor had talked to me earlier back in when we was having the terrible cold weather about going. We can set up as a shelter. However, if power goes out, we do have an emergency generator at the station that is dated to the 60s. It does have some issues. So when the power did go out, Mr. Hilton and myself was there basically on standby to keep it running. It was not running at capability like it was the automatic shut on, shut off, do its thing. We had to be there to manually do that. However, in the 60s, we didn't have all the capabilities that we have now, all the need that we have now. So those are, it's only capable of running partial building, which is not including the heat. No power goes out, you're kind of going to need the heat. So that was one of our projects that we had laid back to do. And we had some other just unexpected expenditures come up, and that's where we are, that we have trimmed back. And I think most of you may have, we have passed out earlier about the projects that we were looking at what we do that equates to this $350,000 that we are requesting.
Have you guys, I just don't know any different, I guess. Have you guys presented to the public safety already? Or have you talked to public safety about your plans moving forward?
Personally, I'm not. Do you know, Jeff?
Not till the next meeting.
Okay. So I'm guessing based on whatever you may be able to get allocated from ARPA funds here, the public safety would be the next step for you. Okay. Eric, can you remind me, where are we in terms of allocating those ARPA funds?
They're going down substantially, yeah. Let me make sure. Now, we have a run total here, which includes some of the things that we're attempting to pass this month. So that number is not concrete, but we're looking at 1.7 million on our remaining. And then also looking at about 357,000 on Baby Doe.
And that's another option. If you wanted to switch rescue squad from ARPA to Baby Doe, that would fit the restrictions that the commission has suggested to place on that money. There's really no official restriction other than the commission wanted to spend it on opioid reduction. But if we switch that over to the Baby Doe money, that would free up some ARPA that we had planned to spend too.
Could we, if we so choose, could we allocate a certain portion from ARPA and a certain portion from Baby Doe? Could we?
As creative as you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want to.
Well, we can't get as creative as I want to. In that regard.
There are so many moving pieces to this, and part of what I'm going to talk about later on down the line, I guess I could just say now. We have a couple of different things coming down the line. We have a state opioid abatement settlement that we received. It's $289,570. That is very, very restricted. It's programs for opioid abatement. it's materials and so forth. It's about 10 pages worth of restrictions, but I just wanted you all to know that we've received that. We need to think about how to spend that too. It's one of those things that sometimes it's going to be difficult to spend this money because it's going to be tight. We did get an opioid settlement from the first, I'm going to call it the Crystal Jesse type funds. We got 143.36 on that. It is technically not restricted, although if we use it for anything but opioid, we have to justify that. There is another settlement that is coming down the line. It's going to be close to that. So there's some ways that close to $140,000. That's not set in stone yet. There's some ways to get creative on some of these allocations. Like you said, pulling part of it from here, part of it from there. You start talking about the sheriff's department vehicles. You know, we could allocate that 143.36 toward that to kind of reduce that amount. If they can't buy all the vehicles at once, we've got another 140,000 coming down the line. I don't know exactly when we get here, probably sometime this calendar year. And, you know, they're not gonna have all, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, but you're not gonna be able to take delivery on all your vehicles at once anyway, is that right?
It all depends on manufacturing, and Ford is back up and running, and Dodge Durangos are back up and running.
Okay.
So yes, I mean, whatever my number, whatever the sheriff's number is, there's a good possibility, yes, and that's what I was gonna speak on.
Okay. So, you know, there's money we can move around, and that takes care of number 11 on the agenda at the same time.
So, let's go back to the rescue squad. They are requesting $350,000 in funds. I like the idea that we have other funding sources that we can use. I think they need the $350,000. They've already, whittled that down. If we can use some of the other funding sources, I think that's great. However we do it, I certainly think that, and I appreciate them for bringing that amount down as much as they can. I think they're being as reasonable as possible, so.
And we need to keep in mind that if we're gonna start moving Baby Doe money, we've got Michelle DeBose here from the Churchill Medical Mission to talk about their need for the Baby Doe also. So I don't want you all to make a decision without having all the information in front of you.
And I will say, while they're not here today, they're on the agenda. Mr. and Ms. Paul with the Veterans Center of East Tennessee is requesting, they've also asked for $175,000 of Baby Doe money in addition to what has been asked for today, so anyway, how would the committee like to proceed with the rescue squad's request? We can vote to work on that request. I guess somebody would just need to write the resolution and then figure out how we're going to fund that. I don't really know. Will we handle that out here now?
I think putting the request in the Baby Doe fund, not only do they respond to emergencies that we've had or two major plants in the county, but they do respond to vehicle accidents that are county and sheriff, so correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a lot of accidents that are directly responsible for drugs. I don't know if you all have a number off your head.
I mean, I did the DUI branch, so, 3 fatalities, drug related last quarter.
And that could be any of us, if they have a frontline truck that they send out 16 years old.
Commissioner Roach, that's
Yes, sir.
Well, excuse me, what a lot of you guys don't know from Jeff Hilton Rescue Squad is we operate and maintain almost 75% of the roadways in Hawkins County is what we respond to. All the mileage, and 90% of the waterways in this county, we're responsible for covering. That's a lot of territory to cover for an all-volunteer organization, and we depend on all our money from gifts or contributions from county or individuals. That's the only way we get any of our funding. And like everything else, we're all struggling to get by. And we know that, and that's the reason some of our vehicles are as old as they are, but some of them's getting to the point, and I'm in charge of maintenance. Just so far this quarter, we spent almost $12,000 in maintenance on our older vehicles. They're getting to be the perpetual money pits. So we've got to do something to move forward to correct this issue.
And, Lieutenant Hilton, I'm guessing is the
Yeah.
proper title? I will say that, I don't know that anybody disagrees that you guys shouldn't, get some of the funding, and in my opinion, I think $350,000 is fair. We just figuring out which fund we're gonna pull it from, I think is step number one, and finding a sponsor for a resolution.
And if we do respond to assist EMS on a lot of the cardiac arrests, it's because of drug overdoses, and assist them with other overdose calls, and like you've been pointing out, Mr. Palmer, a lot of our accidents that are involved, not just fatalities, are drug or alcohol abuse is what's caused that crash anyway. So, and then we're having to deal with all these patients, along with EMS assisting them with getting to the hospitals, now the vehicles and everything else.
This would free up 350 out of ARPA.
Well, Mr. Palmer, if you'd like to make that motion,
I make that motion.
I'll second it. So the motion is to allocate $350,000 from Baby Doe funds.
You don't have that much in there.
Yeah,
We're at 5,700, what you said.
we've got 357,904.
Okay, so the motion is to allocate $350,000 to the rescue squad from Baby Doe funds. It's been made by Commissioner Palmer and seconded by Commissioner Kern. Is there any further discussion? The only concern that I have with taking the full $350 from Baby Doe funds is, I know we have other organizations that might qualify, well, there's really no qualifying factor from Baby Doe funds. But there's other organizations that are looking at Baby Doe funds as well. So for example, the Veterans Center of East Tennessee, okay, like I said, I went and visited with them this morning, great folks. I got a better feel for what they're doing. They're asking for $175,000. They want to ask for $175,000 from Baby Doe funds. Well, if we deplete the Baby Doe funds down to what, $7,000 that's left, how will those state opioid funds be able to be used? Let's say that the Veterans Center is they're implementing a 12-step program for recovery. So would they then qualify?
Yes. It would not qualify for their original request of salaries,
Yes.
but if it's programs and materials and such, yes, it would. And I'm gonna say the same thing about Churchill Medical Mission. You know, if they could get more creative with what they're gonna do with it, opioid abatement, along the lines of opioid abatement, some of that may fit that as well.
Motion to amend that last motion. The numbers I've kind of had in mind was taking 200 out of ARPA and 150 out of Baby Doe.
Okay. Mr. Gibson has made a motion to amend by allocating 200 from ARPA and 150 from Baby Doe.
Keep in mind that you've already tentatively allocated $250,000 today out of ARPA.
Which would take us to 1.45. Is that right?
And you're not, and you still haven't considered, the rest of the sheriff's department vehicles, the EMA radios, the sheriff's office, security equipment, all the rest of the nonprofit donations for loss of revenue. So if you're gonna do that, that's fine, but we're gonna have to start balancing somewhere else and somewhere else.
There has been an amendment duly made, $200,000 from ARPA and 150 from Baby Doe. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Allison seconded the motion. The amendment is now up for discussion.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Crane.
What would be the problem if we take it all out of Baby Doe?
It'd just be Commissioner.
You're saying that are you saying, Mayor, that we will receive some more funds
Yes.
for Baby Doe?
It's not Baby Doe.
Or
It's
opioid.
opioid.
Related.
Yeah.
And some of that's largely unrestricted. Now, some of it's very restricted, right?
Right.
So,
You've got about 400,000 if the second settlement comes in about the same as the first settlement. You've got about 400,000 that's restricted, but it's not, as long as we justify it. And then you've got 289 that's fairly restricted. But if you look at requests from like the Veteran Center, could probably make it fit that very restricted money. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and I've been trying to work it since I became mayor.
in my opinion, I mean, if there's not a lot of, I think what we're trying to say here is that all these requests, right, Rescue Squad, Veteran Center, Churchill Medical Mission, we could make them work with the money we have, where do we take the money from, right? So I think, in my opinion, I would rather take it out of, Baby Doe, and, I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys are different, just for clarity's sake for me, and make the spreadsheet easier to read. As long as we can make the other requests, I don't want nobody to get knocked out of something if they have a good cause, and we couldn't make it work with another pot of money, but, I'm not sure, in my opinion, I don't think we're to the point where we need to split these up yet. That's my opinion.
All right, so the amendment on the floor is to take 200 from ARPA and 150 from Baby Doe. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amendment. Ms. Davis?
Danny Ellis.
Yes.
Tom Carnes.
Yes.
Joshua Gill.
No.
Jason Roach.
No.
Robbie Palmer.
No.
John Gibson.
Yes.
3 yes, 3 no. Motion fails.
Motion fails. So we're back to the original unamended motion to take $350,000 from Baby Doe out of the rescue squad. Any other discussion?
Mark, you said that the Churchill Medical Mission would qualify under ARPA, correct?
Under ARPA, there are really no qualifications that have to be made under strictly ARPA money.
Yeah.
And they might even fit under the restricted opioid funds as well.
All right, any other
Just
discussion?
have to get creative about what they're gonna use it for.
Ms. Davis, will you call the roll, please?
Danny Ellis.
Yes.
Tom Carnes.
Yes.
John Gibson.
Yes.
Robbie Palmer.
Yes.
Jason Roach.
Yes.
Joshua Gill.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carried.